Hi everybody, Dacob here. Welcome back to the Fashion Bunker. A lot of you have been asking me, since my resolution to not purchase new anymore, to not purchase new luxury goods, new luxury fashion for the year 2017, because the quality is going down and the prices are going up. So as I said, my New Year's resolution for at least 1 year, I will not be purchasing new, but only vintage and secondhand. Because this unbalance of quality control and quality and price has to come has to balance out again and come close to one another. So join me in this revolution, shall you? And thank you so much for those of you who have already decided to join me in this revolution. And mostly the ones that have been asking me to give tips, mostly the ones that have joined the revolution have been also asking me, where do I get the stuff and, where do I get my second hand and my vintage pieces? I'm wearing vintage for the occasion today. You have seen this on Instagram already. Check out my Instagram profile. It is super Dacob, all spelled together on Instagram. I showcase like full total looks, full body shots, close-ups of accessories and what have you. But you have seen this probably there. The Dolce Gabbana sweater. It's meant to be this open. It's made on purpose that way, not that it's too tight. 1994-ish. The shirt is also vintage Dolce Gabbana. It's not white, even though it appears white on this camera. It's a very, very, very light beige color. Also vintage. I don't know the year though, but it has still the old logo. The old label is white background, black text. Anyway, there's a lot to be said about, hunting down the logos, recognizing by the logo what year, what is made, or at least the decade, or at least the period, more or less. But that's not the question at hand. The question at hand is, most of you have been asking me, where do I shop? Like where to get good secondhand vintage pieces, what shops to shop in, how does the authenticity work, or authentication work? These are very, very difficult questions. I don't answer them specifically for specific reasons. And I'm going to tell you why I cannot give you these answers. I cannot tell you where you should buy secondhand and vintage other than being abstract about it. First of all, where do I buy vintage secondhand? Everywhere, from online to stores. If I'm walking down the street somewhere and I see a secondhand store, I go in, and if there's something that tickles my fancy, that really stimulates my imagination, I look at the product, I see it, I touch it. Of course, if you're doing it live in a store, it's better because you could touch it and you kind of feel it and you could see more details and you could figure out if something is authentic or not authentic, especially if you're hunting down, luxury pieces. But also, brands like Lacoste, have a lot of copies out there, Levi's as well. So it's not just about luxury, it's about knowing a lot about a lot of different brands. I'm not specialized in all the brands out there, mind you. I do, however, specialize, because of the geek in me and the fashion lover and addict in me, to particular things that I'm really passionate about at the moment. So I'm really good at pinpointing certain brands out and authenticating them for myself, not for others, because I do not dare make a mistake for others. But anyway, back to the other point I was making. There are several reasons why I cannot tell you where to buy specifically. One of them being, I do not want to be responsible for you going to buy into an online store, for example, that I'm telling you to go to buy something and then getting a fake. And then you're going to say, Dacob, why the hell did you send us there? Second reason, no matter how notorious, famous, no matter how good the reputation of an online store, of a luxury secondhand reseller store is, there is still a chance that a fake can slip through the cracks, that a fake can slip through. With the best intentions that they might have, they might still miss something. We're human beings. Nobody is perfect. So if somebody has a business, especially for online shops or consignment stores that are very big, that maybe don't employ enough people to, or don't employ the right people always, because there's not a lot of the right people out there that could really authenticate pieces. So if it's a very big business, the bigger the business, I think, the bigger also the chance that a fake might slip through the cracks because it hasn't been controlled and found or identified correctly. So having said that, what I want to say is, you can always purchase it can always happen that you end up purchasing a fake, and I do not want to be responsible for that. I cannot, I do not, my heart would break if I would direct any one of you to some particular website and then you get, something that turns out to be a fake. I just can't do that. So you have to understand that that is the biggest reason why I cannot tell you where I buy my stuff. But I can tell you that I have a really good nose for these things. But that's because I have years and years and years of experience and practice and exercise. And we're talking the finest details. The devil is always in the detail. The finest little details matter in a photo, from what angle it was taken rather than what other angle. Doing the research, you find the product you really like, then you got to go into the archives of the collections of the designers and look through the catwalks. Whatever you can find online, try to pinpoint out the exact same piece from the catwalk and then try to kind of compare them. If it's a print, it's kind of hard to compare because the print will shift a little bit from piece to piece, but the shape and stuff like that. The logo, the branding, how was the branding in a certain decade or year, and then you got to kind of compare. So if that piece is from 1995, is the logo and the brand the way it's supposed to be? All these things you learn with time. There is no manual to them. There is no book that tells you, you got to do your research. And that's what I do. Every time I find a piece online, mostly, because mostly I purchase online, secondhand, I don't just jump on it and purchase it immediately. I do my research, unless it's not a piece that I've already been looking for a long time, and I find it, and I already know, I have my whole memory set up in my head that, tells me, okay, this piece has to be like that, has to be that shape, blah, blah. And also I collect things that I'm interested in. I have a huge I have a huge private digital archive of images. Basically, if there's a catwalk that I like, if there's a piece from a catwalk I like, I take that image, I save that image in my archives. So I always have it as reference. If one day I were to find that piece somewhere secondhand, I could compare it to the original, from the catwalk, or from the original catalog, from the product photographed, from the sample photographed for the catalog for that season. So that is something that I do. Another thing, that is very important, I purchase a lot, not on consignment really. I also do consignment websites, but mostly, I'm not making any names, guys, but the biggest secondhand website in the world, right? We all know it, so I don't need to even mention it. But I purchase a lot there, and the trick there is to have sellers. It ain't always possible, but the tips I can give you is the seller that has 100% positive reviews, of course, super important. And I'm not talking about 100% positive reviews if that seller only has 2 reviews, at least 100, 150. Over 300 reviews, a seller might, some buyers are assholes too. So sometimes a buyer might leave a negative review for all the wrong reasons. You also have to know how to sniff out the wrong negative reviews, If somebody has 350 positive reviews, one was negative and stated that the shipping costs were too high after all, from how the box looked like when it arrived, then of course okay, that's not a negative review really. That doesn't inflict authenticity of the product or stuff like that. What I also always check is that the seller must have a solid kind of sentence written in the product description somewhere that states that they guarantee, that they vouch for the authenticity of that product. If that product happens to not be authentic once you receive it, you could always go legally back to that sentence and say, but you vouch for it, so you gotta take that fucking product back because it's fake. You gotta prove that it's fake though. Even better is but then again, it's your word against theirs. And this is where PayPal kicks in. I love to purchase when sellers accept PayPal, because PayPal really does protect you pretty good, pretty well. You have up to 180 days return policy. It's not so easy for a seller to trick you as a buyer with fakes if you're purchasing through PayPal. So be sure that the seller also accepts PayPal as a payment option, because what happens is, even if you can't really... I have had experiences in the past, yes. Super Dacob has also purchased fakes. Sometimes on purpose because I want to have a fake in my collection to be able to compare it to others, because it's good to have it as a reference. But be sure of that. If that happens, it's usually I buy stuff that has like a branding, a logo in a certain way so that I could like check out how it was stitched and made, so I could see and compare that to others. You know what I mean? Because usually replicas do not nail the logos very well. And it's very good to have an archive of all the fakes out there because it speeds up your checking process of what could be authentic or not in the future. But that aside, I have also purchased products sometimes that have revealed themselves to be fake. And it takes me very short time. I mean, the latest when they arrive and I have them in hand, I know immediately. Sometimes the photo it just isn't enough. So it happens even to the most trained of eyes. That's why I'm telling you. That's why I cannot give you the websites you should go to, because it can happen everywhere to get a fake. So you got to really train your eye a lot. Now, what I did with that particular product, I sent it back immediately, took photos of it, wrote the seller, hey, this is obviously a fake. Then the seller even tried to, counter debate and say, well, but, how do you know? And I'm like, well, listen, the logo font should be like that. Your writing is a little bit detached. The sticker should be like that. Yours is like that. The packaging in the foil, it was a fragrance, by the way. So, of course, the nose is enough. But I can't start by telling it doesn't smell like the original. You know what I mean? Because, be sure I told it doesn't smell like the original. But I didn't want to go there yet because I didn't want that seller, because the product was in foliage. It was packaged. And I wanted to return it sealed as is. You know what I mean? Not like, I opened it, that the seller could tell me for the fragrance, but you could have put a fake inside. Very, very tricky because the product was photographed sealed in foliage. So I did not see the bottle. That's the only reason why I got tricked and fooled. But anyway, so I said, to the seller, and this is where you get to the point of the fragrance smell. I was like, listen, I'm not going to open the fragrance. I can open it and then I can assure you that, it's a fake because I do have an original purchased in store years ago and I could compare them. And I said, besides, I paid with PayPal, and do you really want to get into that trouble of receiving negative review from me and, receiving negative review from PayPal? Because they also kind of, in your history, they also kind of block off certain options for you if you really turn out to be, a fraud or a negative seller, this or that. They could even delete your whole profile, worst case scenario. Well, best case scenario for us buyers because the assholes get deleted, but you know what I mean. So I said, to avoid, and I put that pleasantly, to avoid negative reviews and starting a claim on PayPal, let me just send it back to you as is. I'm not going to open it, and you just, send me the money back. And then the seller was like, a little hesitant, but it was at the end okay because, he knew there was no other option. There was no choice, really. And in fact, the fragrance was a fake because once I had it in my hand, the foil, here's an authentic Christian Dior Fahrenheit perfume package. The perfection of how the foliage is closed and sealed and how the stickers are put on top, very hard to replicate. And most of these replicas come from China. And the Chinese, they're very quick at producing everything. But that one thing they're lacking is they don't understand that the perfection, that like the detail, the devil is in the details. So they don't get little tiny nuances right. And those tiny nuances are the ones that actually make us understand that we're dealing with a fraud and a fake. This is one of the reasons why when I buy or when I receive fragrances new, I don't take if they have a sticker on top, I leave the sticker on top because I always want to have it as a reference, so I open them at the bottom. Just so that I know how they were factory sealed, how was the structure of them, and blah, blah. So there's a lot of things to consider. What is very good to notice, now that we're talking about fragrances, testers are always kind of safer to purchase than like a new product. And here's an example of a Dolce Gabbana Pour Homme tester bottle. It has like the printed ingredients on the back. Fakes don't do that. But not just that, also the bottom of the bottle, the fake bottles have much thinner glass. I can kind of come in a bit closer to you so you can see. The glass is thinner at the bottom. The printing, first of all, the sticker is not metallic. It's like a papery sticker usually. The Dolce Gabbana font is more detached, like the letters are more separate from one another. The bottle at the bottom here is like totally smooth. Fakes usually have little bubbles at the bottom. There's like so much to consider. There's so many details and elements. The stopper, it doesn't have this like plastic blue. Sometimes it does, it doesn't, but the sprayer usually is wobbly, not very fixated. You know, you got to know the quality. You got to know that actually the blue part twists from the silver. They're two different parts that are attached together very tightly, and so on and so forth. And of course, the smell gives it always away. But as I said before, we cannot always order an open fragrance. Sometimes they're sealed. What are you going to do? Testers cannot be sealed. They don't have foliage around them. They just come in plain, simple, usually white or carton boxes. That's how testers are shipped out. So that they cannot be sold really in a store, you know, because they're meant to be free of charge. Well, I mean, depends. Usually stores have to purchase a sample or a tester, but sometimes they don't. But anyway, that's a totally different story. For clothes, same things, same rules apply. You gotta know your brandings, your logos. You gotta know the stitching. You gotta know the quality, the heft of certain things. And that's why it is impossible. It's impossible because a store like that does not exist. There is no store, consignment store, secondhand store out there that can really 1,000 billion% guarantee authenticity of every product that they have. Of course, they guarantee it, meaning if it proves to be a fake, you can return it. But usually consignment stores have a return policy of up to 14 to 30 days, so you could send stuff back. So they don't even question you, you know, just like don't, you know, wear it and kind of send it back, showing obviously that the garment shows so much use, so much more use than it already had when they shipped it to you. So you got to be very, very cautious. And I will be posting this video as an answer for all future questions that you might have asking me where to purchase secondhand. You can read through the lines in this video and understand where I purchase secondhand. I have placed little Easter eggs here and there consciously so that you could kind of figure it out. But I just can't say it because I do not want that responsibility. And I don't want you to be sad, you know. I always want you to be happy, and I want you to always get the best stuff possible that's out there. Unfortunately, due to the fact, due to my work and due to everything that I'm doing and the really limited amount of time that I have, I cannot answer requests on authentication. First of all, because again, through photos, I am not willing to commit and giving my word because I really need to touch and feel things. And second, because, and then, you know, if the product results to be, again, a replica or a fake, then who's the culprit? Dacob. So I really don't want that. And I don't want you guys to have to go through that. So I don't authenticate through photos. I'm not an authenticator like that. I do consider myself a very reputable authenticator when it comes to Chanel, but only live. Like when I see a product, when I touch it, and when I smell it. The smell is also so important for certain products because, especially for bags, here's another little tip, you know, it's not just the leather that the bag is made of, but it's also the smell of the materials that filters through the bag, the materials that are inside. Because the bag has several layers. You see, you have the top layer. Usually Chanel bags are padded. There's also the padding inside. There's a structure. There's a bone structure in there. All of those products have a specific type of touch, of heft, and smell. So guys, don't be mad at me. I hope you're not mad at me. And if you are, don't be for not giving, you know, these names. Any consignment store, any secondhand store can be a good one. But you are responsible for doing your homework and your research and figuring out if from the photos already something is a fake or not. Nobody can really help you there. You got to have that trained eye. And it's a lot of time, God damn it. And I know it's a lot of time. And I spent years and years and years researching. And I mean, it's never done, really. You never end. I always find myself, at least once a month, I find myself surprised. I figure out what the fakes are, but then I'm like, oh, so now they've stepped up their game yet again. And they're doing now this instead of that mistake that they were making in the past. So, you know, things are evolving. You got to always keep it up, and you got to always kind of refresh your memory and refresh your your knowledge in this particular field, especially if you're, you know, it makes things easier. And that's why you've noticed probably I purchase, usually I kind of get obsessed with one particular brand and then I stick with it. And then after that I shift. So lately I've been obsessing with old school Dolce Gabbana, with like the vintage Dolce Gabbana from the 90s. And I have this tendency of sticking with it because it makes things easier to research. So if I'm shopping for certain pieces within one given brand in particular, then you're going to be sure that you're kind of going to learn quicker about it, and you're going to be able to use your resources quicker, and you're fresher in your mind and memory about all these details that you need to know. And then after that chunk of time has passed, 5 or 6 months or whatever, then you move on to the next. Because that's the kind of the way that my obsession works. Chanel is a different thing. Chanel is forever. There's no like time frame really that I'm into. I mean, sure, I'm very much into the 80s stuff and 90s stuff of Chanel. But what I want to say is, as a brand for itself, I'm still interested in it today, even though I'm not purchasing new for this year, as I said in my other videos. But so Chanel is something that is a constant research for me. Louis Vuitton as well. Hermes, less, because I don't have the bags, which interest me. The other pieces that I've received or got from Hermes were always from the boutique. I never got Hermes secondhand. Or have I? Maybe fragrance, maybe a fragrance, but not the other pieces like, I don't know, a tie or a bracelet or something like that, or a whip, a crop, and all that fun stuff, or cards, playing cards. So, having said all that, oh yeah, back to Dolce & Gabbana quickly. I might make a fashion flash video about that. You know, the scandals, you know, them being against, kind of more or less against gay marriage, even though they were a gay couple. I mean, they're not together anymore. And then this in vitro fertilization, and then they're being against any sort of birth that isn't given between man, woman, wife, husband, and that's how the baby is formed. That was a big issue, a big scandal. So, you know, Elton John, who was their friend, was very much against him because his baby was obviously not delivered by his own uterus because he don't got one. He rented one. And now this new kind of thing of Stefano. Stefano is the one who always kind of does the messy stuff with all the marketing. It's always his strategy. You know, Domenico is the genius for the clothes, and Stefano does the PR, basically. So him, you know, being proud that he dressed Melania Trump, and then a lot of other, you know, a lot of the designers, we're not gonna dress Melania Trump and this and that. Listen, what does Melania Trump have to do with anything? People have been writing me, Dacob, why, you know, why support Dolce & Gabbana? First of all, I'm not supporting Dolce & Gabbana because I'm not buying new stuff. So first of all, I'm not giving a dime of my money to them because I'm buying vintage secondhand. So everything from the 80s and 90s, mostly 90s that they did, is what I wear. Nothing new, really. And even if I do have that beautiful red heart passion of Christ or whatever shirt from 2015, also not bought new. So I am not giving them money. What they used to be is not what they are anymore today. Things have changed. People change. So what am I supposed to play the lemming that jumps off the hill just because like everybody's saying that I should? No. If I like something, I like something. It doesn't take away the fact that they did have other statements in the past, that they did believe in other values in the past. And if in the past I have agreed with them, why can't I wear stuff from the past that they used to make? It makes absolutely no sense to not wear their stuff, even if it's beautiful stuff, just because of, you know, something that they said. Again, in the past, because I think they've changed their stance again when it comes to all of this fertility issues and stuff like that. Now, but quickly to Melania before we end it, why shouldn't they or he dress Melania Trump? Why not? Like, what is the big deal? I think it's super childish of designers to, you know, Tom Ford and co. to be like, I'm not going to dress her. Who cares? Then don't dress her. But like to make a statement about it just to like prove to the world that you're on some other side, that's bullshit. And it's super childish, honestly. She looked great in that Dolce & Gabbana dress. A lot of, you know, and what I don't like is bullying. You know, a lot of you are going to say, well, Trump might be a bully himself. I don't know about that. What I do know, however, is that Melania is not a bully. And people are like really making a lot of fun of her. Don't do that. Give the woman a break, for crying out loud. Let happen what has to happen, because there's no choice. The thing is happening right now. The president is going to be the president. She's going to be the first lady. Let's see what she does. Just because she doesn't speak English so well, and that, and has a bit of enhancers in the face, okay, I mean, so what? So does Kim Kardashian. Every freaking designer is running after her fat ass, to dress her. Give me a fucking break. I hate double standards and double moral. You know what I mean? Listen. This makes me so angry. People should not judge, Dolce Gabbana for dressing Melania. Are you fucking kidding me? This is like insane. It should not be happening. There's freedom of choice, for that matter. I have nothing against Melania Trump. What did she ever do to us? She never did anything to me. So let's see. Until something happens, I do not judge. I do not wish to judge. I do not wish to get poisoned by the media. I do not wish to allow any poison in. Facts always speak to me. Nothing else. Wow, now we've shifted from like totally one thing to the other. So there. Now you know where to shop vintage. Call Melania Trump, because she wears a lot of stuff, and after she's worn it once, she can't wear it twice probably. So I guess that's a great fountain of that's a huge wardrobe, by the way. I would love to check that wardrobe out. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I know you're going to have a lot of opinions because I said a lot of stuff in this video. Let me know. All in the comment section down below, and I'll be back pretty soon. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel here on YouTube. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. Love you all very much. No matter who our president is, no matter where we travel to, no matter what we wear or what they want to make us wear, we never give up on love. Love you. See you soon. Take care. Bye.